it's me, Jess. Welcome to my channel. I'm here with another channeled message. This is a specific message. It might resonate with you. It might not. All right. So I've got Gemini, Scorpio, Mars, and healing in front of me. So I'm picking up on a friend in air quotes. And this friend is in their head. They're doing a lot of thinking, planning, strategizing, and there's something like round and round about their thinking, like a circular kind of thought pattern. And I think for some of these friends, this like circular round and round thinking has a lot to do with timing, which has to do with their strategy. So they think a lot about, okay, is now the right time to send a message? Is now the right time to initiate something? Or even is now the right time to strike? Because for some people, I think it's like that. For another group of these like friends that I'm picking up on, I think this like round and round circular thinking has to do with their actions that in some way were scorpionic. And I think I mean like undermining. Something here could have been, hidden, secretive, strategic, maneuvering, schmegdual, abusive, repulsive, something like that. And these actions gave rise to a situation that is also a riddle. And so I think this person, their like round and round thinking has to do with like solving this riddle. It still is this maneuvering, strategic kind of thinking, but they are thinking, okay, how can I fix this? How can I correct my involvement? How can I heal the effect that my actions had? Because I feel like there was a relationship that ended here, and it feels like a soulmate relationship or like a very special relationship. It could have been theirs, like a relationship that they were a part of, or it could have been somebody else's. That also could have to do with a friend group that like got destroyed or everybody went their separate ways. I just heard we don't talk anymore. And yeah, I think communication is a part of this too, where the communication stopped, somebody blocked somebody else, or, I mean, given the kind of undertone here, it could just be that somebody, even if somebody did reach out and they did have a conversation, somebody here doesn't really trust this person. I also just heard they might not really even like this person, anymore. But I think this is something that this person does think about. They know that's like a part of the equation here. So they're thinking like, okay, well, given that, like, how do I fix this situation? How do I solve this riddle? And I think the answer is that you can't solve a riddle on the same level of consciousness that gave rise to it in the first place. And I think that level of consciousness for this person or these people, because for some of you, I think there's multiple people involved. Take that however it resonates. Could be one person, could be two people, could be 50 people. I'm not really sure. But I think this level of consciousness that like these people who are involved in, whatever went on here that was maybe like a collusion or it was a secret or it was maneuvering or somebody here had like an ulterior motive. I think the level of consciousness that like everybody is on in terms of like participating in that, it has something to do with like intellect that is not wisdom and intellect that is not empathy. And so I think these are souls that like in some way through this situation, they are confronting and they are kind of slowly learning and waking up to the fact that they lack wisdom, because I think these are souls that in some way they confuse intelligence or intellect with wisdom, but I think it's like intelligence plus, like in some way. So I think some of these people, I actually think everybody here is like smart, like genuinely smart. And I think some of these people have a depth of knowledge in something, and it really could be anything. And so I think maybe those people, they think that having this depth of knowledge in something equates to wisdom, that's one to one, like I have this deep knowledge and therefore I have wisdom, and they're not one for one. They're not the same thing. They may have deep knowledge, they lack wisdom. They need to confront that. They need to discover that in order to cultivate this wisdom. I think there's another group here where they confuse wisdom for intelligence plus effect. Like, okay, if I have intelligence and I point it in a certain direction, like an effective direction, and I can produce a certain effect, either an effect that selfishly I want to produce, or like a healthy effect, like some type of healing effect or something, that is wisdom. And it's not. Spirit saying that's skillful. You have a skill, but it's also power. And those two things are great or can be great if used correctly, and you should practice them, but it's still not wisdom. And so I think there needs to be something like that confronted. The other thing here is empathy. And I want to say, like, for those of you where there's like more than one person involved, I think that's a very karmic choice. Like, I think that there may be somebody here that's like just a bad egg. Like, I'm kind of getting a scary energy off of that, where they're just like, they genuinely lack empathy. They had an agenda here that they disguised, because somebody here wears a mask of friendship, or even a mask of a healer, or a mask of a friend that's like aiming towards healing, in order to hide who they really are and what their agenda really is. And somebody here just feels like very determined to like achieve their goals. Like, there's maybe nothing that they wouldn't do. So some of you could be dealing with a person like that, but I really just think that that might be one person. If it's somebody here, the rest of these people, I think, may have fallen into this person's trap in some way, or like been tempted. I think these people, like, I think their shadow, something about their shadow was just triggered in this situation, or like brought up. So they could have been really jealous, or they could have just been really selfish. And so there was something about this situation where they colluded with this energy, but these are people that genuinely have empathy. So like, there's maybe people here that don't have empathy, and there's people here who do. But the people who do, I think, convinced themselves that they didn't need to consult it, that they didn't need to, think about how their actions would affect other people, even though they can and even though they care. They knew that if somebody found out what they did, that it would hurt them and that they would not have any trust. They knew that. But they were convinced, or they just kind of thought, well, that doesn't matter because nobody's ever going to know. Nobody's ever going to find out. And that was just never going to happen in this situation. A, because there's karmic shit going on. And B, because I think for some, there's this person that is very negative, very selfish, and they wouldn't hesitate to drop that knowledge in if it felt like that suited them, because they were really trying to destroy a relationship here. And that is a problem, because so their intellect navigated this situation. So these people that got wrapped up in this, their intellect navigated. That's why they thought, well, this isn't a big deal, and, oh, well, nobody's going to find out. That's intellect that's talking. Wisdom never would have separated this situation out from trust. Trust is never a small thing. Trust is always a huge thing. And once you break it, it's not a guarantee that you can get it back. Even if you're dealing with two good, healthy, well-adjusted people that are doing their healing work, it's just not a guarantee that you can get trust back. And wisdom would have said that in this situation. And so I think that is the corner that a lot of these souls are turning. And it does seem to me here that something has like happened. I'm seeing like a solar flare in my mind, just like lighting up a dark sky. And so I feel like this was like a gift from God, or like a gift from their spirit team, or a gift from the divine, because it feels like for these people that were wrapped up in this, or even this person that is like, if there is a really, really negative person here, I feel like even for them, there was some type of like solar flare kind of situation where it lit up the darkness of their consciousness, or like their shadow. And in that light, even though it was fleeting and momentary, it was like a kind of enlightening experience, or like an awakening experience where they could see their shadow. That's not the same thing as doing shadow work, but I think there was a hope that once this person or these people saw their shadow, meaning they could see that they were in the wrong here. They could see that their shadow was triggered, that they were jealous, or that they were selfish. They could see that they were trying to hide, that they were maneuvering. They could see that they were in the wrong here, and that their actions really hurt somebody. And I think the hope was that would encourage them to do their shadow work, and to actually pursue like their shadow, and to look at the parts of themselves that they don't want to own up to. Because I think that's another thing, is for some of these people, like this really negative person, if that person's involved, okay, they know what they are. And I think they are okay with what they are, because they mistake, again, like I think they mistake power for wisdom. They mistake having this intellect that they deploy in order to have an effect that they want. They think that's wisdom. And I think they relate to wisdom as being superior, or this is like justification, or it's entitlement, or something like that. But these other people here, they might not know who they are, or like they don't know a certain part of themselves. Because I just think for some of these people, they haven't acknowledged their shadow, or they haven't explored this situation and seen that their shadow was triggered, their shadow was active, and that's why they did what they did. Some of these people, I feel like they just tried to bury it, or like their ego defense mechanisms kicked in. They could have projected their negative actions onto their victim or onto someone else in the situation. They could have intellectualized it. They could have, justified their behavior in some way, but they weren't kind of looking at their shadow. And they weren't looking at it, so they weren't integrating their shadow. So the image that they have of themselves in their mind and who they are in the world and how they make people feel, it's wrong or it's incomplete. And people like that can sometimes be really hard to deal with because you know that they're nice and that they're sweet, but they can't acknowledge that they hurt you. And they can't say, I was selfish. I was jealous. I did something that hurt you. I'm so sorry. And that might make you feel too scared to trust me and to have a relationship. And that's so sad. And I manipulated to try to get my way in the past. And I'm not going to do that anymore. It's up to you. Where we go from here, it's up to you. And I totally understand if you don't feel safe around me. This is the person that can't just say that. And the other thing I'll say too is like this group over here that was engaged in this, there's karmics and soulmates here, because you've got at least one person or some people here they were trying to ruin a relationship. Okay. So that's a karmic because they wanted something here from themselves. So as they learn, if they're genuinely learning their spiritual lessons and integrating those lessons, they're going to start realizing why they wanted what they wanted. They're going to learn healthier ways to do that. And this behavior and doing it, it's going to repulse them. They don't want to do it. So that means that these two, they're going to go their separate ways. When they heal, they just naturally go their separate ways. Some of these people, I feel like genuinely are soulmates with somebody here that they hurt, or maybe a couple here that they split up. They're genuinely soulmates, meaning when they heal, they're going to move closer together to these people. And I think in this instance, moving closer together is knowing how to take responsibility, being the person that does know how to fix this situation. And there's two of those people here. And I'm saying that because some of these people, this impulse to quote unquote fix this situation by maneuvering and trying to have a conversation with somebody or try to get two people in a room so that they can kind of talk it out. For some of these people, that impulse, it's not coming from the altruistic place that it seems like it's coming from. It's grandiose. It's a self-importance, and that would be, I think, the karmics here, because they, nature has a remarkable ability to heal itself. Our bodies have a remarkable ability to heal itself. It's not, total and complete, or maybe it is and we just haven't figured it out yet. But a lot of times if you remove the irritant, something will heal. And I think for some of these karmics, their healing is in recognizing I'm the irritant, and the way that I heal the situation is by moving away. These two are soulmates. And if I leave and if I'm away for long enough, and if these people are allowed to do their own personal healing, they might just find their way back to each other. But like a karmic here, trying to reach out here and saying, how can I say like, I come in peace, and I'm a friend and I'm trying to heal this situation. I mean, it lacks wisdom. It's completely out of touch. And I think what it is a re-traumatizing event waiting to happen. So for some of you, that's a heads up. You might have a re-traumatizing event in the form of an unhealed karmic who wants to act like they're a friend and force you into a room with somebody who's betrayed you and who hasn't done the work, and where underlying issues are just, they're not dealt with. They're not acknowledged here in this situation. So it's not the way forward. It's not the way forward. And even if you are soulmates and if a conversation could heal this, it's like, you got to be in the right energy. You have to have done the shadow work. You have to be a person where like you neutralize the threat within yourself. You got to look somebody in the eye and say, that person that hurt you, they're taken care of. I know how to handle that person now. I know how to see that person now. Right? Whatever it is. If you're really selfish, you can play a team sport, or don't play a team sport, play poker, play solo tennis, like some healthy way of like channeling that. But all of that has to be worked out on the back end. And that is what the solar flare was about. That's what this realization is about. It's to get somebody here processing the shadow. That's what it was meant to do. And to start the healing process and to cultivate wisdom. But somebody here's got to admit that they don't have it. That what they think is them having wisdom, it's just a kind of cleverness, you know? So, okay, that's what I have for you. If that resonates, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye, guys.